Blacklight theater is it's a very magical medium to use. Basically what happens is the only light source that's used is what's called a black light or an ultraviolet light, which picks up specific pigments of color and not others. And so the idea is that you use materials that are reflective under the UV light and only those will show up. So usually the performers are dressed in black so they disappear, and whatever it is that you're using to pick up the reflection of the light glows. It's very magical because you lose the performer and you see just the fabric or materials being used. You can really throw off the audience's sort of perception of what they think is happening. You're creating a picture for the audience that needs to be structured very particularly so that you don't have what we call blackouts happen, which is where something that's not supposed to be seen in front of the reflective material gets seen, like hands or body parts or rods from puppets or whatever. I like to call it a very analog sort of form of theater because it's all done by hand, really, and it's very simplified. There's no, you know, spectacular bells and whistles with it. It's all man-made, and it's all about how the performers need to move and integrate with each other. When I talk about building puppets, I talk about it, that's sort of generally a general term. It's basically anything that's going to be moved or used in the show without giving too much away. There's humanistic creatures or forms in the show that are manipulated like your traditional, I don't want to say Sesame Street because they're scarier than that, but you know, with the rod puppets and mouths moving and things like that. We have some of that, but also objects, everyday sort of household objects that might move through the space are considered puppets too. Well, when we got together, Encore, the company members got together, and we were sort of deciding, you know, what are we going to do, what are we going to do, and the idea came about to maybe look at local lore for Sudbury, the history of Sudbury, and maybe some really iconic places, and see if there's any hauntings or, you know, anecdotes that come out of specific sites. So each of the members went out and did a bit of legwork and found out some things, and we created stories which will be narrated with, you know, some cool sound. And then while the stories are being narrated, it's being presented by the performers through puppeteering in blacklight. We've sort of taken some theatrical license with a few things. So some of the stories have been created out of you know, anecdotal stuff that has been told to us by friends, by family. I myself went out and did some interview and legwork at a specific site, without giving too much away, speaking to people that work at places and finding out about, you know, stories that they had heard about creepy things happening. We had to be careful. We had to stay away from things that might have been too recent. We didn't want to disrespect anybody that they might have been concerning. Most of the stories sort of have no names necessarily mentioned. They're just sort of hearsay about things that are sort of iconic and a lot of people know and have heard about. I have always wanted to use blacklight for Halloween. It lends itself so wonderfully, first of all because of the dark and things coming out of the dark and appearing and disappearing. The effects that you can create with blacklight just lend themselves so well to scaring people or wowing people. When I think about Halloween, I think about blacklight. There's no better medium because of what you can do with it. It's so surprising. Certainly there'll be startling moments, some creepy stuff, some wow moments, I hope. The writing is creepy and the stories are creepy. It's like hearing ghost stories around the fire at night kind of thing, but then they're being acted out in front of you. I can't say for certain, but I honestly don't think that there has been anything like this done in Sudbury before. So in terms of our mandate, I mean, we're trying to do things that are different and new and fresh and sort of edgy. Yeah, I mean, it's all of those things. So I'm building 140, probably 150 different objects for the show, puppets I guess you'd call them. So it's huge, like it's a huge undertaking for me as a designer and a puppeteer. It can be very pricey to build in fluorescent. If you're interested, check out Fabricland someday and go and check out how much it is to buy fluorescent fabric. It's really expensive. We have to be sort of creative and crafty because I'm trying to keep to a budget to some extent. Yeah, I pick up whatever I can find for as cheap as I can find. Lots of spray paint, lots of fluorescent Bristol board from the dollar store, wood and styrofoam, black material, paper, piles and piles of hot glue. I got in trouble once before for calling it junk theater. It's found stuff. It's a lot of found stuff. I try to find instead of buy, but obviously I have to buy sometime till I'm a millionaire. The other thing is that you have to make sure that things are actually UV reflective. I have a little handheld black light that I take with me to the fabric store so that I can sort of just scan and see what reflects. It's really surprising sometimes. Sometimes things that you think would glow don't, and sometimes things that you think, you know, ugly brown fabric or something that wouldn't glow and it does. People should come because it's going to be a blast, first of all. It's going to be entertaining, I think. I mean, without bias, the $10 is worth the show alone. But then there's a dance party afterwards and a bar and costume contests. It's just going to be a great night. And if you've never seen blacklight before, it's magic and you'll love it. I love it.